Alright, good people. How are you doing tonight? Welcome to the Brews at 10 on my left eye. So I hope you're having a good evening. First live stream of the week. I'm your host Lefty. You're all very welcome here this evening. Solidari-Tea. And we've got some action in the chat already. Hedy, Olwyn, Chris, Flowsnake. A very warm welcome to you. Thanks for jumping into the chat. And showing solidarity with Palestine already with those flags and watermelons. Excellent. Thank you very much indeed for that. While the Middle East, Palestine, Israel and Lebanon alike are going to be part of the topics tonight. A few goings on at the Labour conference as well. I'll be starting with that. The situation between Lebanon and Israel today specifically is still kind of developing. So I'm going to leave that until after I've dealt with things at the conference and stuff. A bit of domestic politics coming up. Politics Clive, quantity and quality. Like it. Good to see you tonight, brother. Yeah, you're probably already aware there was the heckler at the conference. I'll be diving into that, as well as a few other statements made by MPs at the conference, a few mainstream media news round appearances, that kind of thing. But this, I mean, in all seriousness, this, just going back to the Middle East, this stuff's getting pretty heavy now, isn't it? This is getting pretty serious. We've been saying for weeks, near months, on the channel now, about the dangers of a wider escalation. And that looks to be what's happening. Yeah, and I'll be talking a bit about the channel on the channel's first birthday as well. I'll be honest, I haven't really prepared for much. I only found out when I logged in earlier that it was actually the channel's first birthday. But I can't believe it's been a year already. And just while I'm on that topic, I'll, of course, duly go on to thank all of the members on the channel. If you can see your name on this list, thanks for your ongoing support. Some great shows of Solidari-Tea recently with gifted memberships as well. That's a great way to contribute to the channel. So whether you want to purchase a membership for yourself or someone else, that's just 99 pence. Some perks for you to enjoy. There's going to be some more exclusive content coming up soon for members only. There's other perks thrown in as well, so please do check them out. And don't forget to hit the thumbs up button on the stream tonight. Give us a boost on the old algo rhythm. Flowsnake, you're on the Solidari lemonade bottle takeout from your local moon underwater. Yeah, choice of beverages are optional. I do like to have a hot, tasty beverage when I'm doing the streams, though. I'll be honest, I should have made a fresh one before I came on. I've got about halfway through mine already. See how we get on. I can knock it back a bit when I'm on the streams. Kit, thanks for joining us in the chat as well. Great to see you. I'll get going with the comedy clip. I managed to dig out a couple today. They're both really good. I'm going to start with Exploding Heads. You're probably familiar with them already, especially if you're a regular viewer on the Brews at 10. Yeah, I'm very thirsty too, Chris. I can't believe that one. How's that not come up yet? I mean, how long have we been doing these tea-based puns for? Or has that come up yet? There's been so many. Yeah, anyone who's not familiar, we do like a tea-based pun here on the Brews at 10. For obvious reasons. So I'll get going with the comedy clip, and then I'll talk a bit about the channel's first birthday, and then we'll get into affairs with articles and such. Without further ado, this is the latest from Exploding Heads.
Colin from Portsmouth is on the line. Hello, Colin.
I am disgusted, Anthony. Absolutely disgusted. Keir Starmer is driving all the good people out of this country because of his communist policies.
Yeah.
Good people, like that millionaire plumber who looks like someone's ordered Rod Stewart off Wish. If millionaires can't afford to live in this country anymore, then what hope have the rest of us?
It's sad, isn't it, Colin? It's sad that they've got to leave because they're being asked to pay a bit more tax. It's really sad for them.
It's the rich elites who fund our NHS with the taxes they don't pay fully because they keep profits offshore, Anthony.
Yep.
And some of these rich people are landlords,
Yes.
forced into poverty by Labour's Corbynesque policy of saying that perhaps working people should be able to afford their own house.
Yes.
And to make matters worse, we won't even subsidise their children's private education. It's disgusting.
Well, somebody think of the very rich children. They're being persecuted, aren't they, these elites? They're a persecuted
First they
bunch.
came for the millionaires, and I said nothing because I'm not a millionaire.
Yeah.
Then they came for the landlords, and again I said nothing because otherwise my kids will have to live with me until they're 40.
Yeah,
so I
nobody
do
wants
agree
that.
with that one. That was a good one. But then, what about poor Liz Truss, exiled from this island because she's found a population even stupider than the UK?
I feel sorry for Charlie Mullins, Colin, a man who joined Reform only to become an economic migrant. I mean,
And he can't even go to Rwanda because we've closed the flights.
He can't.
This country is leaking sewage everywhere, and not even Dinah Rod Stewart can stick around to fix it. Anyway, mate, thanks for having me on. Love to the family.
Love to the family, Colin. Love to the family.
Good job these rich people have foreign passports at least.
Yeah,
Saved on airport queuing.
Thank God for that.
Oh, great one. Yeah, their stuff's always good. Exploding Heads. Do check them out. Colin from Portsmouth, irate, as always. On the phone-in. Right. Dino Rod Stewart. Mobius, thanks for jumping into the chat as well. Dino Rod Stewart. So yeah, just a quick bit about the channel. Thanks for joining me here on the first birthday since the inception of my left eye. And well, what started off as a bit of a side project, I've got to say I'm really happy with how far the channel's come so far, and it's great to have you here as part of it as well, with your contributions in the chat, getting to know you, getting to know and share opinions, and a few laughs along the way. It's been a pleasure bringing you content. So yeah, genuinely, thanks a lot for sticking it out with the channel. So yeah, just under 3,000 subscribers at the moment. Tremendously proud to have achieved that in the first year, as well as join the YouTube partnership program as well. And while I'm on that topic, thanks a lot, viewers, for all of your super chats, super thanks, all of the gifted memberships, etc., to help support the channel, as well as those of you who've contributed on the Buy Me a Coffee page, which I don't mention too often these days actually, but tasty hot beverages being the theme of the evening. There are links to that in the channel description as well. But the best way to support the channel is with gifted memberships, because that also helps the community grow and helps give people access to perks as well. So I'm glad that after a year people are still enjoying the content. And yeah, once I do get over the 3k mark for subscribers, I'm going to do a special live stream about that as well. But I won't harp on about myself too much. Just wanted to thank you all for being here. Hey Becca, great to see you. Right, I think we should start dipping into things. Let's kick off with the Labour conference. My goodness. There have been a lot of red flags about what Labour are truly like under Keir Starmer, as we've spoken about so much on the channel. I won't repeat myself, and at the risk of not repeating myself, you're welcome to go back and check out previous content, previous streams. There have been many along the way, but I think today was really definitive in terms of where Labour are and how the apple has fallen far from the tree. Because we know we're going to get austerity, aren't we? But Reeves is still harping on, saying that tough choices now will be worth it. The same old Tory lexicon, language and syntax that we knew we'd be getting from them. So that's what she says, probably in a very robotic fashion, with a nasally voice. Which unfortunately we might have to be subjected to in one or two clips tonight. Apologies in advance. So she's gleefully rubbing her hands together there, just thinking about how many pensioners she might be killing this winter, no doubt. Probably thousands. But this keeps the corporate CEOs and lobbyists happy, so... because you wouldn't want to take any money from them, either in taxation or in bribes either, would you, Rachel? And while she was giving a speech, of course, there was a heckler. I think we'll get going with a little bit about that. How's the background music? Is it okay? Not too loud, I hope? Let me know in the chat. Also, thanks a lot for keeping me up to speed with one or two sound issues on the last live stream, on the Sunday live stream yesterday. Thanks for your vigilance. Thanks for keeping your eyes out for my left eye. Ocular-based puns as well as tea-based puns are always welcome here. Brett James, welcome to the chat. Thank you for the happy birthday wishes. And for the Palestine flags as well. Right, as always, I'll just pick a few points out, or we'll read the full thing. Yada yada, tough choices, best days lie ahead. Although she won't say how, she won't say when. But she faces a backlash, it says, from the trade unions and many Labour members over her decision to strip winter fuel payments from 10 million pensioners, with a conference debate expected later this week. And they have pushed that back to Wednesday as well, just for the record. I'm not sure if that's going to be brought up in this article from the Beeb. And especially the likes of Sharon Graham from Unite, I know, are trying to pressure Reeves and Starmer into a U-turn, specifically on the winter fuel payments. And then as she was making a nasally speech that was interrupted, news broke that nurses have said that the government's award of a 5.5% pay rise is not enough in an online poll. Well, that's absolutely true. That's a bloody insult, if anything. 5.5%. I mean, sorry, I'm a little bit staggered by that measly low amount. It's pitiful, it really is. Even without what doctors and nurses went through during the pandemic, 5.5%. So no, they can stuff that one. And then someone from Climate Resistance interrupted, and well done them. And that was in protest at continued arms sales to Israel, of course. So he yelled out, was dragged out the hall quite heavy-handedly, as you've probably seen, grabbed by the neck and dragged out. I've got some footage of an alternative point of view from the one I'm about to play. You've probably seen this or part of it already. But then what she said afterwards, just going back to my point about this summing up what Labour are all about at the moment. The declaration, this is a changed Labour Party and not a party of protest, and met by rapturous neoliberal applause. Well, let's take a look. I think there's a, yeah, here we go. I'll just turn the background music down while we listen to this. So I'll play this, and then I've got an alternative point of view from someone who was actually at the conference, filmed on a phone. And this guy on the left came over and grabbed this young man. Jamie Rudd, I believe his name is. I don't know if the BBC have even mentioned that in their article, but I believe that's what he's called.
They paid the price for their incompetence, their dishonesty, and their rule breaking.
I mean, this is what it's come to. He stands up and makes a legitimate point. What is a legitimate point? And then he's grabbed and thrown to the floor. You saw the guy there grabbed him by the neck. He was then led out in handcuffs.
This is a changed Labour Party, a Labour Party that represents working people.
what in the bloody hell is that even supposed to mean? The party of working people and not the party of protest. If Keir Hardie was there, I think he'd have a few stern things to say to you with that statement, looking at what you've done to the Labour Party, Rachel. Honestly. Really? How did working people get a 5-day week, Rachel? How did working people get a 40-hour working week? How did they get holidays? How did they get other employment security, health and safety legislation? This kind of thing. Labour is supposed to be the party of unions. And guess what, Rachel? Unions go on strike, which is a form of protest. And the smirk as well. There's not an ounce of emotion in there, is there? There's just no... She doesn't even acknowledge the issue. She doesn't even acknowledge the issue that's been raised or try to sympathise. It's so authoritarian. It beggars belief. And not just that, but the response from other delegates there, cheering as he's being dragged out. And yeah, the founder of the Labour Party, Keir Hardie, will be utterly ashamed to see what's happened. It's just it's a name now. It's just a name. Oh, the nodding there as well. Oh, gross. Gross. It's awful. It's awful. And like I've said before, the worst part about it is they're pretending to be the nice guys. I'm sure that they actually think that some people still think that Labour are a socialist party. Well, they probably are. But that's far from the case. And I've got an alternative point of view of that incident, as I said. I'll get that queued up. And welcome to Super Tiny as well in the chat. Hope you're doing well this evening. And Gwynedd as well. Yeah, you're quite right there. People who brainlessly voted for Starmer's Labour must be regretting it now. And I saw a couple of clips earlier on of pensioners who were protesting outside the conference. Some of them had voted for Labour and now regretted it. I think that was on ITV. But I'll just show you this other point of view. Of this manhandling, and that was totally unnecessary. But it also drums up memories of a previous protest as well, which I'll go on to in a bit. That was about 20 years ago. It's been mentioned, it's been brought up that there's similarities between this incident and someone getting manhandled out of a Labour conference under Tony Blair. All right, here we go. Sorry guys, just trying to keep up with the chat at the same time as get things lined up. It's all go today. It's all go this evening. Don't worry, I got this. Just, let me check that's lined up okay. Yeah, I can just about see that. Get the sound going, so. So yeah, shout out to Taj Ali, who I believe filmed this. This is his footage. Just put for Oh, sorry about the buffering, people.
Like change to me, Rachel. Move back. We wanted to change, Rachel.
Stop backing oil! Stop backing oil!
So there's actually two. I'm not sure who the second protester or heckler, whatever you want to call it, was there. But he was clearly shouting for no arms to Israel and stop backing oil as well. Regular viewers of the channel will know that's a sentiment that I also share. But what gets me is I've not seen any footage of between now and them being put in handcuffs. But I don't know if he was arrested. Meanwhile, you can see all of the neolib ghouls there clapping like sea lions to Reeves's authoritarian smirking. Oh my god. Yeah, this party is dead. They've totally killed this party. Really. It's rotten to the core now. And we wouldn't have seen the 7 suspended MPs speaking. That would have been the sort of silver lining on the cloud of this year's Labour conference. So let me know if you know who the second person was there. As far as I know, they've not been charged with anything, although they were handcuffed. And saw some pictures on social media earlier of the marks left on his hands, on his wrists by that. RC, thanks for jumping in the chat. Very good evening to you. Right, where were we? Let's just go back to the article. Just one or two more things. So obviously the thing with the freebies came up. I know we'll be touching on a bit more of that on the stream as well. What's the music gone? Where's it gone? There we go. Yeah, they've come under criticism from some of their own MPs. Diane Abbott has spoken out about that as well. Accepting donations of clothes despite the 6-figure salary. Speaking ahead of her speech, Reeves said she could understand why people find it a little odd that politicians get support for things like buying clothes. She said that while Shadow Chancellor, a friend had given her clothes to her on the campaign trail for big speeches. Well, the argument isn't really about declarations and such. It's just about the optics, the hypocrisy, really. And also they're pushing this vote on winter fuel back as far as they can. Pretty spineless stuff. Free gear, Kia. Yeah. Absolutely. You're right there, RC, about the cuffs. I find myself in that position once or twice, to be honest, with some of the actions I've done, but that's another story. Just see what else I've got in the old bookmarks on conference. As I said, there was a bit of a protest outside the conference as well, and there's just one example of a pensioner. Like we were saying, people who voted for Labour must be feeling pretty crap about now. I don't know what high hopes they might have had, but this guy in particular is nonplussed. He's a 72-year-old, and he's there with part of the Unite Union protest. I'll just get the sound going on this one. Sorry about the buffering, folks. Just try and deal with this. It is abysmal. It is abysmal. Going back to... I'll just pause that one sec. Going back to what Reeves was saying about they are the party for working people. Yes, obviously the Labour Party should support the working classes as well. But essentially what she's saying in that as well is bollocks to students, bollocks to the unemployed, bollocks to the retired. Unless you are in a job, unless you are in work, then this is not the party for you. But even if you are in work, don't think that Labour are going to be campaigning for high wages, increasing minimum wage, etc., or putting caps on CEOs' bonuses or salaries, for example. Oh, no. No. Absolutely not. But that declaration sums up just how little she cares about people outside of that demographic. Where to next? Okay, got a choice. Yeah, I think we're going to go with Wes.
Shut up, Wesley.
Streeting. And he was at the conference and a journalist collared him and they were asking about the donations recently. Outside of this freebie business, it was also recently revealed, as I mentioned on a previous live stream recently, that Labour have taken over £4 million. The largest donation that the party's ever received. from some pretty dodgy people. But Wes Streeting welcomes it. So I'm gonna go to that next. Just bear with. Get that queued up. And again, just goes to show what this part is. They don't just do it now. They're gloating about it and smirking and like it's a good thing. Look what we've done to this party. The only way that they've changed it is they've changed it into the Tories, like we all know. And when you're watching this clip as well, I'll just restart that with the sound. Well, I've paused it in quite a... Look at his face. Look at his eyes. I'll just zoom in a little bit there. Maybe. It's been a bit bigger. Look at the craziness in his eyes. It's mental. It's the same with Reap. There's something inhumane about them already, you know. The same way Reeves is robotic all of the time. Chris, thanks a lot for that gifted membership as well. Solidari-Tea. Thank you so much. Yeah, where was I? There's no empathy in there. They're all... Oh, God.
And volunteering, but their money to our politics. It is a noble pursuit, just like giving to charity.
He thinks it's a noble pursuit now to donate to the Labour Party. Just like giving to a charity, he says. Just like giving to a charity. What? Let's say that again.
Not just their time and volunteering, but their money to our politics. It is a noble pursuit, just like giving to charity. And we don't recognise that enough. The alternative is we ask taxpayers to fund our politics. I think they'd rather their taxes went into the NHS and our schools or stayed in their own pockets.
It's going to a Taylor Swift concert, a noble cause.
Wesley. What do you want about? Party funding is completely different from the government budget. If you didn't take 4 million quid from oil barons and warmongers who hide the profits in offshore accounts, then you'd have to dip into the treasury to cover it and people wouldn't like it. Is that what Wes Streeting just said? And he's in charge of the NHS? Isn't that terrifying?
Is we ask taxpayers to fund our politics.
You want taxpayers? You want to use... And I've paused it there again at a very good... Look at the face. Look at the face, the eyes. They're going to pop out of his freaking head if he's not careful. I'm staggered. If you didn't take 4 million quid from scumbags, then you'd have to take it from the Treasury, from the British public. Is that what you're saying?
I think they'd rather their taxes went into the NHS and our schools or stayed in their own pockets.
It's going to a Taylor Swift concert, a noble cause.
I'm sure Keir will shake it off. But let me say, Nick, I'm absolutely delighted in the BBC's newfound conviction that no one should be paid more than the Prime Minister.
Oh, look at... Oh, his attempts to get jovial now. with the journalist who obviously brought up one of the litany of freebies that Labour MPs have been on the take for a long time now. And he says, oh, he's sure that Keir will shake it off. Unfortunately, with it being the early days of the government, that might actually be true. And that's one of the worst things about the state of UK politics at the moment, of course. There'll be another story that'll come up and eventually journalists will stop talking about this kind of thing. But then he starts to have a laugh with the guy. What a wanker. Ogum the Bold, welcome to the chat. Yeah, Streeting really is something. He really is.
That they shouldn't give or receive hospitality and will judge the performance on the social media mentions.
You'll judge the performance on the social media mentions, and then he just turns and... Just see that last bit again. He thinks he's... Oh, God, it doesn't matter where I pause it. You can pause it anywhere. He's got this psycho... Look there. Psycho. Nutbag. Yeah. What's with the face? And then he just turns round and sods off.
That no one should be paid more than the Prime Minister, that they shouldn't give or receive hospitality and will judge the performance on the social media mentions. I'm really proud of people.
He probably thinks he's a whiz with the media as well, doesn't he? He probably does. Wow. What can you say? What can you say? Let's have a quick look in the chat. Super Tiny, yeah, that's a bad, very bad Taylor Swift joke. Yeah, Becca, he thinks he got a gotcha on the journalist there. I don't think anyone's going to be pausing that one and editing a pair of shades onto Streeting anytime soon, if you know what I mean. Where was I? Oh, of course, I forgot to go through this. I'll just go to this quickly before I show you the clip of Nandy, Lisa Nandy, which was just as bad as Streeting, I've got to say. So a few people have drawn comparisons about that heckler protester at the conference being likened to a chap called Walter Wolfgang, who was a very elderly gentleman who was protesting against the Iraq War at the time at the Labour conference. Well, he wasn't protesting. He called out a couple of things right from the back, up in the rafters as well, where he was situated. And I've got a clip of an old BBC report on that. Sorry, it's not the highest quality in terms of picture, but it's exactly the same thing. And now here we are. Blairism under Starmer, i.e. vis-a-vis, well, Thatcherism really. And a lack of democracy inside and outside the party. So let's see what happened to Walter Wolfgang back in, was this 2004, 2005?
This is how the Labour Party today handled dissent. Dissent from a man who's been a member since before Tony Blair was born. Party stewards certainly weren't joking. This was their response to an old man heckling Jack Straw during a debate on Iraq.
We want you to leave the premises. We want you to leave the premises.
On what grounds?
You may well ask. Walter Wolfgang claims he only shouted nonsense. Others say he shouted "that's a lie" during the Foreign Secretary's speech.
You know, I've got a right to my views, as Jack has got a right to his.
We're in Iraq now for one reason only.
It was that statement that provoked the heckle.
Yeah, how, you know, How dare you say a few words against an illegal war? And obviously Labour's popularity tanked soon after that as well. Incidentally, I once found myself on a train with Jack Straw once. He got on a stop or two after I got on. And interestingly enough, this was either the day after or just a couple of days after the Scottish referendum vote, if I recall correctly, which led to a particularly interesting conversation for the next few minutes before he got off. But yeah, suffice to say, I didn't really let him get away with much. But onwards, back to this, I should say. Look at this, you know, not a lot of people were there back in the day to watch Jack Straw's speech either, by the looks of things.
Jack Straw appeared to barely notice, but then watch his eyes as the stewards move in.
Nation building from a violent past has never been easy.
Compare post-war Iraq, he said, with post-war Germany. Ironic, really, given that Mr. Wolfgang came to Britain after fleeing the Nazis.
I've been a member since 1948. I've held various positions of my party. I've been a parliamentary candidate.
That's the sound of the other man ejected. He'd come to Mr. Wolfgang's aid.
And I simply said, you leave him alone, he's an old man. And 5 of the stewards physically manhandled me. They pulled me across chairs and pulled me out of the conference centre, threw me against a wall and threw me into a chair.
Then these 2 toughies came around and wanted to manhandle me out, and I said, well, I knew they were stewards, so I said, if you want me to leave, I'll leave. You don't need to manhandle me.
But it didn't end there. Police used anti-terrorism powers to hold Mr. Wolfgang when he tried to re-enter the conference. He was not arrested or charged.
Wow. They tried to use anti-terrorism legislation against him as well. An octogenarian who fled persecution during World War II. What did he say earlier in the clip? He's been a Labour member since the 1940s. Cripes.
But once Labour Party delegates heard what had happened, this is how they responded.
But this was an 80-year-old gentleman, and I'm sure Jack Straw, a politician of great experience, is able to deal with responses from the balcony without that kind of response from our stewards. Thank you.
4 hours later.
Yeah, but unfortunately this time around I don't think there's going to be anyone who stands up for today's heckler who was manhandled out of the building now that Labour's completely fully compromised by neoliberals, which is a tragedy in itself. A once great party which did stick up for ordinary people. I don't know what came after this. Mobius, I don't know if he did sue the police or if there was any further action after that. I'm assuming he's no longer with us. If he still is, then congratulations. He'll be a centurion now. Bit of history repeating there. Okay, I'll move on to Lisa and Nandi in just a moment. Bear me 1 sec, people. I'll be right back. So where she is, and after I play this clip, I'm not going to do an official poll, but let me know in the chat who you think was worst, whose speech was worst out of the three choices today. Reeves, the response that you saw to the journalist from West Streeting, or this absolute clanger from Lisa Nandy.
What does austerity mean to you? Because a lot of people will be looking at the spending plans, and in particular the cuts for unprotected apartments, saying, well, if it looks like austerity and smells like austerity, it is austerity, isn't it?
Well, in 2010, George Osborne and David Cameron put forward an argument that they believed that the state had grown out of proportion to Britain. They believed it was crowding out the market, and they wanted to see the state pull back. Rachel Reeves is making a very different argument today. She's saying to the country that we believe in active government walking alongside communities and businesses in every part of Britain.
What is
quite the word salad she's spewing out here. I think the interviewer is about to just remind her what the original question was. How does Lisa Nandy define austerity? Pretty simple question to answer. The answer, by definition, is with spending cuts, cuts to services, and so on and so forth, which doesn't work economically. Sure, Lisa Nandy knows that, but she's gonna dance through hoops to try and avoid that fact.
Grow our economy.
What is austerity?
Well, austerity was an ideological choice to make cuts because they believed it would be better for Britain. It wasn't better for Britain. If our economy had grown at the same rate as the OECD average, we would be...
As it comes up on the screen, no return to austerity in Britain, something they've said a few times now. This budget that's going to come out next month is going to put that crap to bed. There's going to be lots of austerity and there are lots of cuts. They can't say they're not returning to austerity at the same time as the so-called tough choices, difficult decisions, blah, blah, blah. They can't have it both ways. We know which way it's going to go. I'll just skip that back a couple of seconds.
Well, austerity was an ideological choice to make cuts because they believed it would be better for Britain. It wasn't better for Britain. If our economy had grown at the same rate as the OECD average, we...
So how is making cuts like cuts to the winter fuel payment a good idea, Lisa? It doesn't add up. That doesn't add up at all.
would be billions and billions
you guys
of pounds.
Want to make cuts too. It doesn't matter about the reasons.
We absolutely don't.
So you want to just, are you going to cancel the cuts planned for unprotected apartments then?
We're going to fill that £22 billion black hole because, as Rachel said in the hall today, unless you create economic stability, you don't create the conditions in which people want to invest in.
What does austerity mean to you? Because a lot of...
That little bit at the end there, sorry, it's only it's not the full interview, it's just a segment. That's very pertinent what she says at the end there.
Rachel said in the hall today, unless you create economic stability, you don't create the conditions in which people want to invest in.
What does austerity mean?
In which people want to invest, what she's trying to say is, unless we go easy on the already super wealthy, then they might want to do business in countries where they can get away with tax dodging if we start to actually take some money from the financial elites, from the top 1%. We know that a 2% increase on the wealthiest 1% would cover the so-called £22 billion black hole that they keep going on about, and then some. But they don't want to address those kind of solutions. They only want to continue with austerity, with cuts. That is what austerity is. Deny it as many times as you like, Lisa Nandy. Denial isn't just a river in Africa. So that was another pathetic performance. This is conference season, isn't this, where they're supposed to be celebrating how good they are and, you know, promoting the party? These interviews with journalists and the speeches that we've seen so far today have been just absolutely appalling. And yet anybody who was naive enough to vote for Labour, you were warned. It wasn't as though, well, we've been harping on about it on My Left Eye for a while now. It's pretty obvious to a lot of us. It is stupidity. Yeah, keep those coming, people. So yeah, difficult choice, which was the worst one out of those three. I'd marginally have to go with Reeves just because of how the heckler was treated, as well as her smirking reaction. I think that was very telling, wasn't it? Very telling speech or reaction. In fact, where's the... Well, this one on for a while. It's here somewhere. I know I've got it. There we go. Credit to the agitator for this one. I'm sure John Hurt would rather have an alien bursting out of his chest than have to spend another 5 minutes in that room. Yes, so we're going to go over to Jeff Goldblum, who's got a review of what he thinks about the Labour conference so far. He's here live with us now from Jurassic Park. Jeff, what have you got?
That is one big pile of shit.
Thanks as always, Jeff. Moving on. Let's go and decide where we're going to go next. Just another quick one from Reeves before we move on to Middle East affairs. And I might have, well, potentially saved the worst till last for the where the Labour conference is concerned. So, another classic example of Reeves failing to do an impression of a human being. Bearing in mind what I said just now about this being the conference where they're supposed to, you know, be all up in arms in celebration of what the party's doing. Go back over to the screen one sec. And this is about all the gifts as well. She's asked about the distinctions between them taking freebies and people like Johnson, other Tories. She just doesn't have any answers. She has responses. Very nasal responses in a robotic voice. But she doesn't have solutions or answers.
You say to the many...
Oh, and this is how bad it's gotten as well. It's gotten so bad that you'll find yourself nodding along with Alan Partridge. I should say Richard Madeley. Perhaps once or twice in this clip. And things have got to be pretty bad if that's the situation.
people. Far too many to read out on air this morning, and you've seen the letters to the papers and you've seen what's happening on the internet. This story's gone viral with the public, not with the media, but with the public. And they see you as being exactly the same as the Conservatives that you constantly attacked for having their snouts in the trough.
Can I give you one example? Angela Rayner back in 2021, Deputy Prime Minister now, but 3 years ago said, "Who do you think you are, Boris Johnson, telling working-class people to rely on their own efforts when you go around with a begging bowl to donors to pay for your posh new wallpaper? And you can't live off your salary. Disgusting." What is the difference between Boris Johnson asking donors to pay for wallpaper and Labour MPs asking donors to pay for holidays and clothes?
Well, if I remember correctly, there were issues around the transparency of those donations that weren't properly declared at the time. But let me give you an example of something that I'll be announcing.
Angela Rayner did not mention transparency in that tweet. Angela Rayner specifically said, "You're telling working-class people to rely on their own efforts while you go round with a begging bowl to donors when you can't survive on your salary."
Is that Life of Brian quotes that you're starting there in the chat? Arms for a leper. Yeah, just quickly while I've interrupted. Reeves is only harping on about the declarations, about the transparency of it, not the hypocrisy, not the amorality of the situation, as well as the kind of people who they're accepting donations from. No. Don't bring that into the argument. That doesn't matter.
Salary, that's disgusting. Nothing about transparency or declarations. What is different when Labour MPs do it to when Tory MPs do it?
Well, we're now in government and we know that different rules apply and we have to hold ourselves to the highest standards when we are making decisions both around tax and spending, but also where we're making decisions, and so any issues of conflicts of interest are even more important. But let me give you an example of something that I'm setting out in my conference speech today to get a grip of the cronyism that we did see under the previous government.
No, sorry,
You'll remember
I'm not talking,
during the pandemic,
but the thing is, Rachel Reeves, the point is, the hypocrisy is now. What Labour voters can't understand is if you said to the Tories, it's not OK to take donations for personal benefit, why is it different if you're a Labour MP?
I think the point that I'm making is that now we're in government, we will be doing things differently.
Yeah, that part. I think the point I'm making, so whenever they're backed in a corner in an interview, if you don't want to answer the question, you just jump to, well, what I'm trying to talk about, what I'm trying to deflect away to or from is, and then carry on without addressing the actual thing that's been put to them. And another form of that is also what I think is important to remember is, and phrases such as that,
and we won't be taking donations, for example, for clothes. Boris Johnson was Prime Minister when he was getting donations for wallpaper in his flat, which were not declared properly.
OK, so the only difference, so you say the only difference,
well, I
is
think
that
there's two things. I think there's two
it shouldn't be
things, that we're
accepted
in
when you're in
government.
government. OK, so the difference is being in government.
And that it should all be, and the other difference is that everything is declared properly.
Garbage. Garbage, Reeves. Oh, garbage. Whoa. And the only reason that they've stopped taking donations of clothes now is because they've been found out and there's been all this hoo-ha about it. If a word hadn't been said, yeah, they'd still be taking, you know, enough suits that he could wear a different one every day of the year. uninspiring tosh from Rachel Reeves. This is supposed to make us want to get out there and support Labour or ignore the corruption. It's awful. Yeah, she's having a laugh.
You gotta be fucking kidding.
She's having a bubble, mate. Yeah, she's having a laugh. Okay, it's gone 11 now, so I'm going to swiftly move on. Right, let's check out the latest in these Israeli attacks on Lebanon. That's really, again, escalated quite thunderously, you have to say. If any of you were with me on yesterday's Sunday live stream, you might remember some footage which apparently showed a tactical nuke being fired into Lebanon, and there have been further attacks today. I'm just going to open up the page now because every time I look, unfortunately, the numbers of civilian casualties have gone up and up. It was just under 500 before I came to you on the live stream. At the moment, that figure is at 492, which includes 35 children. So I'm just going to quickly go through the live reporting. Let's resize this screen share 1 second. Yeah, 35 children killed, 492 civilians. These are in airstrikes. Of course, Israel aren't concerned about distinguishing between military targets and civilian targets. We know that from what they've been doing to Palestine and Lebanon alike for some time now. But over 1,000 people have been injured as well. There was some retaliation from Hezbollah, who launched more than 200 rockets into northern Israel, according to the military. And if that wasn't bad enough in terms of escalation, actually the full figure of injured, I'll just quickly mention 1,645. You can see there. But now the US have got their toe in the water, as it were. They say a small number of additional troops have been sent to the Middle East out of an abundance of caution. I don't know if it's going to come up in this article as well, but President Xi of China has apparently asked all Chinese residents within Israel to leave. This doesn't look good, people. This doesn't look good. This could be the beginnings of it. You know what? Yeah, and for me, this is more or less, it is a war. It is a war. Israel have used that kind of language. They've repeated that again today with this new phase of the war. Like I said yesterday, countries won't often officially do that declaration. Okay, so this is what Sorry, just bear with me 1 sec. You can never be too certain to believe what the Israel military says, but they says they've hit 1,300 Hezbollah targets, they say. This will of course be a shock for Lebanon, for Hezbollah as well, as those tech attacks that we saw, but there it is. We're in a new stage of war, and that's from the Lebanese health minister. So Israel have said it's a war, and now Lebanon have said it's a war. So if that's as close as you can get to war without declaration, as far as I'm concerned. Now that America are moving in, and President Xi's asked Chinese citizens in Israel to move out, this absolutely does not look good at all. If the likes of Anthony Blinken or Kirby or whoever come out and express any form of optimism, then I'd get worried as well, because every time they try and imply that they're on the brink of a ceasefire, whether it's between Hamas and Israel or Lebanon and Israel, then inevitably things soon escalate. Just need to wet my whistle once. Because we know Netanyahu's addicted to war. We know his fanaticism. We know what he's all about. He's just not interested in peace whatsoever. So this bit from Jeremy Bowen. Allies prepare for worst. Well, it's another word that begins with W. And of course, what's happened, Israel have been attacking Lebanon for some time. Lebanon have responded. And there have been exchanges across the border, which has led to an evacuation of about 60,000 Israelis. I'm sure that Netanyahu thought that he could just attack another country with impunity and not face any kind of retaliation whatsoever. He will, of course, blame Lebanon for this, but if you fire over a border into another country, I don't think it's entirely unreasonable to expect that you might get fired back on. I know he's not used to doing that in Palestine, because Palestine don't have an army or military capability. So Hassan Nasrallah, Hezbollah leader, has said attacks on Israel will go on until Gaza, a ceasefire in Gaza happens, but it seems pretty clear at this point that neither the leader of Hamas nor the leader of Israel is prepared to go for the deal that the US have put on the table. So how's this going to go? I mean, obviously the US are out there, they're going to back Israel. They've not gone out there to help Palestinians or Lebanese, that's for certain. And is that what happens? You know, Netanyahu just whistles and the USA come running. But this isn't going to be it. This isn't going to be a one-off attack. You can see from this declaration, preparing for the next stage. Preparing for the next stage. Meanwhile, Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant says Israel's airstrikes have destroyed tens of thousands of Hezbollah rockets today across southern Lebanon, and the Bekaa Valley in the east. Don't be too sure about that. It wouldn't be unknown that Israel might lie. And it doesn't say, it just says a small number. It doesn't say how many US troops are going to go over. What does that mean? Is that hundreds, thousands? What are we talking about here? Very spurious language. But if anything, that's only going to add to the escalation. And people don't learn from history, do they? Certainly world leaders don't. And this is how the worst wars always start. Allies get involved, it runs up and up and up the chain, and the next thing you have superpowers versus superpowers, and that's it. And then millions of people get dragged into it. So this is the deadliest day in Lebanon since 2006. So almost 20 years more than, well, that number's a little inaccurate now. It's just under 500 people been killed. And what's tomorrow going to bring? Yeah, it looks like some of the strikes were targeting a Hezbollah commander, but he appears to have escaped unscathed. People in Beirut have said that they're terrified. Quite rightly so. So that's the latest on that. I won't go through the full live reporting page. Just want to re-emphasise how concerned I am. Been saying this for a while now. Yeah, Floor Snake, about the clip with what could have been a nuke. That was on yesterday's live stream. I shared that footage. If you do want to check that out. But there's quite a broad range of when you hear the word nuke, most people drum up images of Nagasaki and Hiroshima, etc., that kind of thing. Tactical nukes are a lot smaller, however they are still very devastating, very powerful weapons. It appears that that's some of the tactics that Israel have been using as well. So let's remind ourselves about the absolute fanatic mindset that we're dealing with here. Vis-a-vis Zionism. This is from Miko Peled. Just turn the background music down for this one. There's a clip I came across earlier today. I just think it sums up everything, especially where Palestine's concerned as well.
Nothing to do with Jewish culture. It's an implant. It's like white South Africans. They're implants. They don't belong. They're the results of a racist movement of settler colonialism. They don't, but now they're there. They're part of the reality right now. But Israeli culture, such as it is, has nothing to do, or very little to do with Jewish culture. The language is, Jewish people, by definition, have no common language, no common culture, and no common country. They're united by their faith. That's it. That's why you could have Jews in Yemen, Jews in Poland, Jews in anywhere else who don't speak the same language, who don't eat the same food, who don't look alike, practice the same faith. The Zionists came to Palestine and created this new thing and claimed that that was Jewishness. It had no faith in it. It's completely secular. It was racist and violent and violated every single Jewish law known to man. Remember this thing, something about 10 Commandments, about no stealing and no murdering and no killing? Well, Zionists threw that away right off the bat. Jewish sovereignty in the Holy Land is prohibited by Jewish scripture. Jews are prohibited from sovereignty in the Holy Land. Jews are prohibited from carrying arms. Jews are pacifists. The Zionists are these militant, and even in their own statements, the early Zionists were saying that a Zionist should be the exact opposite of a Jew. Should look nothing or act like nothing. Should look or act nothing like the Jew. The Jew. So, to claim that, now, you're right in that, and I remember this as a child, oh my goodness, if they win the war, oh my goodness, can you imagine if they take over, if they become the majority? Well, they are the majority. The majority of people who live in historic Palestine are Palestinians. So what? So when Palestine is free, the majority of the citizens will be Palestinians. So what? Why is that a problem? If anybody doesn't want to live with Arabs, why did they come to an Arab country to begin with? What were they expecting? And if they don't like it, when Palestine is free, they can go somewhere else. But Palestine is an Arab country, and Israelis are settlers that came from other places. So that's the reality. And I don't know what's wrong with living in a country with a majority of Palestinian Arabs. I never understood it. I still don't understand it. And again, if somebody doesn't like it, then you shouldn't be living in an Arab country. Palestine has been an Arab country for a very long time.
Yeah, I thought that summed up quite a lot of the major points pretty well historically. Okay, we'll see what develops. I would imagine there will be some more stuff to report tomorrow and throughout the week. I've got another comedy clip lined up. It was Miko Peled, yeah. It was indeed Mobius, it was indeed. Alright, this is latest video from Noreen Skinner. Liv Truss. And I don't know if that original clip of Liv Truss has come your way yet, but she's basically put out another one of these long-winded videos blaming other institutions, other MPs and whatnot for her failure during her short time as Prime Minister when she tanked the economy. So it kind of, yeah, it's an ode to that.
Stop all the clocks. Prevent the dog from barking with a juicy bone. I was my north, south, east and west. I have no doubt I was the best. This is a tribute to the one I love the most. Me, Liz Truss. 10 things I love about you. A. I love your judgment even when nobody else backs you. 1. I love how you shook the Queen's hand really hard and she fell over after. C. I love your beautiful, vacant smile. 5. I love how loyal you are to Maggie Thatcher and your good, honest friend, Trump. L. I love how you never did anything wrong. It was Tony Blair, the OBR and the deep state. 6. I love how you care about important matters, growth, novelty hats and dairy products. And finally, the last of my 10 things. 9. I love how you did more for Britain in 49 days than the Luftwaffe managed in 5 years. What work ethic! Wow. Wow, thank you, Liz, for such a touching tribute. Except there's one problem. Like interest rates under Rishi Sunak, I'm going nowhere. Ooh.
Liv Truss there, Liv Truss. Marine Skinner comedy. Check her out. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, I'll be bringing things to a conclusion shortly, but please do stick around. Another shout out to all the members on the channel. Thanks a lot as well for that gifted membership earlier as well. I'm going to be redirecting into Helena's No Justice channel, so do stick with me here on My Left Eye. Yeah, just say a quick goodbye and then we'll redirect over to Helena. But people, thank you so much for joining me on this first birthday edition of the Brews at 10. Yeah, it feels like we've been rushing through everything tonight. Sorry about that, I've just had a few bits to go at and been conscious of the time. Keith's lot keep throwing so much garbage out for us to talk about. It's hard to keep up sometimes, as well as the escalating situation in the Middle East, as we've seen as well. But yeah, we'll keep you up to speed with what's going on, as always. And thanks for all of your comments in the chat as well. If you're watching back on a replay, don't forget to add a comment. I'll try and keep up with as many of those as possible. Super thanks are also available for anybody who's not watching live and who's watching back. So thanks a lot for all of your recent contributions as well, everybody. And thanks a lot for everybody who's wished the channel a happy birthday today. Hopefully you'll still be here with us when celebrating 2 years on the channel. Okay then everybody, shan't linger too much longer, that's just about it from me. I'll probably be dipping over to No Justice after I've redirected as well. So like I said, don't anybody go anywhere. Hopefully I'll be seeing you through the week. And take care of yourselves, My Left Eye. I'll be seeing you soon.